Hi friends, what's up? I just decided I'm gonna start a vlog. So yeah, I have the day off today. I'm gonna run around, do some things, maybe go to the thrift shop, maybe go to the bookstore. Maybe I'll do a half price books stop. Still early, it's only 10:20 in the morning. I'm gonna start out this vlog with the September house. I have the physical book from my library and I also have the audiobook from Libby. I figured this is a good one to start with for this vlog, and then I'm just gonna let it take me where it takes me. It came out I think in 2023 and had some really awesome reviews, and I just never got around to it, and I think it's like a haunted house situation. Seems like maybe more appropriate for like spooky season, but it's spooky season year-round over here. A woman is determined to stay in her dream home even after it becomes a haunted nightmare. In this compulsively readable, twisty, and layered debut novel. Boys, do you have to do that right here? When Margaret and her husband Hal bought the large Victorian house on Hawthorne Street, they couldn't believe they finally had a home of their own. Then they discovered the Hauntings. Every September, the walls drip blood. The ghosts of former inhabitants appear, and all of them are terrified of something that lurks in the basement. Most people would flee. Margaret is not most people. There's more to it, but I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to spoil you or myself. Also, I just got some fun mail I want to show you. Thank you, Linnea, for sending me all of these stickers. She made me custom stickers for my channel. What? Why are you the sweetest person ever? So let me show you some of these. And she has a Etsy shop, Saturn's Spooky Stickers. Oh, so cute. And here's the whatever it's called, Scanimadoo. Oh my gosh. Okay, this one I think is actually a magnet. The Haunted Library, Haunted by Unread Books. Are you kidding me? And these are stickers. Ghost Readers Book Club, ticket number 51. Why is this so cute? I love these. Thank you so much. Just a season for spooky books and cookies. Ah! So adorable. Oh my gosh. The Loch Ness Monster? What? Are you kidding me? This is going on my water bottle ASAP. Read more horror, of course. Love it. I'll link her Etsy in the description, so check her out if you're interested. So cool. Wow. I'm obsessed with stickers. Thank you. Just gonna pop around and probably get some brunch. It's like 10:30 right now. We'll see where the day takes us. I'm gonna listen to the September house. So I'll check in later. Alright, let's see how this works. I don't really know. Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? It's gonna be so hard to edit, but I'm trying this with two cameras, so we'll see how this goes. This is one of my thrift store finds yesterday. Hellfire Club shirt, and it was like $1.50 or something, so had a pretty successful day with that. I didn't end up buying anything from half-price books. I'm not in love with my half-price books. When I used to live in Dallas proper, the flagship store was there, and I think I got a little spoiled because this one's just not as good. The prices are higher. I don't know. So, and then I kind of dissociated for the rest of the night. Anyway, back to September house. I haven't even started putting on my makeup. How do other people do this? How do they do this? Okay. It's kind of giving cozy horror. There are certain things about it that are like Oh my gosh, damn Rippy. Hold on. I don't even know how to do makeup. I don't even know how to do makeup. What is happening? I might give up on this. I might give up on this. This is what happens when I try to change my routine. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I'm not in the bathroom. Where are things? What is life? The September House. Giving cozy horror. I'm like not fully connecting to it yet though. I think like 30 or 35% in. Audiobook is like 14 hours, I think. It's a long audiobook, and there's only, in the hardcover is only like 300 and some pages, 320 or something like that, 330, which isn't short, but it's not super long either. And I don't know why I'm not connecting with the audio narrator. Margaret and Hal bought this house, this Victorian house, and it was like their dream. Like they never thought they would have a house. They were always not drifters, but like kind of going in and out from apartment to apartment, never really owned their own house. And they raised their daughter Kathleen, and she went off to college, and they finally like found the opportunity to buy this house, and so they bought it. Your typical haunted house story. They get there, they find out it's haunted, but she doesn't want to leave, and he does. That's the problem. Hal wants to leave. And when we enter the story, it's 4 years into them having lived there, and Hal's gone, and we don't know if he's dead or if he left her or like what is going on. But their daughter Catherine keeps calling mom and is like, why won't you let me talk to dad? Where has he been? And she keeps making excuses, but like she can't really keep doing that. Like it's not gonna work out. The daughter says that she's coming home. And it's September though. Oh no, it's September. So in September, specifically, the house gets extra haunty. I'm a creature of habit, y'all. I'm pushing myself right now. We're pushing our self to be flexible. That's what we're doing. Okay. So in September, all the wacky stuff starts happening. All of the ghosts come out. There's one ghost, Francesca, I think is her name. I almost said Frangelica. So there's also this like boy, I think his name is Liam, that's just always moping around but doesn't say anything. Francesca is like her maid, essentially. Margaret's like maid. Margaret keeps telling her like, you can leave, you can go do whatever you want with your life, but of course all she wants to do is serve. And I think that's what she did when she lived there. She got murdered with an axe to the head, and so she's kind of scary to look at. Margaret also has one like real life friend who's like a neighborhood woman, Edith, and Edith doesn't like looking at Francesca? What is her name? She thinks, you know, she's hard to look at. She's got like a gaping wound or whatever. So now that Catherine's coming, the daughter, Margaret has to figure out how to make this house look normal because the walls are bleeding. There's Francesca who's serving tea with a gashed out head. There's some random spooky little kid that doesn't talk. There's Angelica who has a bunch of friends, and she keeps calling them all pranksters. But I'm like, what are they pranking? Who are they pranking? What's the prank? I don't understand why she keeps calling them pranksters. When Margaret's talking about when she first moved into the house, how like she just started noticing these things and how horrific it was, she'll constantly say, but you'll get used to it. But you get used to it. That kind of reminded me of the happiness quotient, actually, because we get used to these things and it becomes the new normal to either way, if life is good or if life is bad. But she does kind of make a joke out of it. So I don't know, I think maybe I'm just not vibing with the tone of this. That could be it. I just don't care that much right now. Like, I don't care why she's staying. I know there's something weird going on with Hal, though, with her husband, that I'm interested to find out, like, what actually happened with him. There we go. Okay. And what else? And I also have Dewy finishing spray. Because I'm old. I need to avoid looking dry as much as possible. So make it dewy! Yes! Okay, well. There you have it. My hair needs to be washed. But it'll last for another day. It's good enough. Good enough for me. Alright. I guess I'll get to it. It's Saturday. I finished The September House and I've started a new book. So let's talk about it. Initially, I was finding a little bit difficult to get into the September house. I read the back of the book about the author. Carissa Orlando has a doctorate in clinical community psychology, which I don't have a doctorate. I wish I could relate in that sentence, but no. But I do work in psychology and specializes in work with children and adolescents. I also work with children. Prior to her career in psychology, Carissa studied creative writing in college, which I minored in creative writing in college. It was only a matter of time before Carissa, an avid horror fan for much of her life, merged her understanding of the human psyche and deep love for storytelling into a piece of fiction. Cozy horror to me is like pasta. Like I never really crave it, but I'm usually satisfied afterwards. So for me, it's not something that I necessarily gravitate towards, but it's something that I have felt positively towards. I will say what I think this book is doing is, first of all, content warning. It's really talking about domestic abuse and abusive relationships. It's connecting our main character and her relationship with her husband and her daughter, their whole family dynamic, to this haunted house. And one way that I love that she connects that is by talking about following the rules. Margaret always talks about how she's learned these rules when she's dealing with Hal, and that she is very accommodating, and so she just follows the rules and then there's no problem. And I think a lot of women in abusive situations can relate to that feeling of walking on eggshells, of feeling like, okay, don't make a misstep, don't say the wrong thing, don't do the wrong thing. She's following the rules, and then as she's moving into this house and she realizes that it's super duper haunted, she starts to understand the rules of the house as well. Don't go in the basement because the thing is down there that all the other things are afraid of, and we just block that off, and then life is fine. Life is great. I get to live in this beautiful home. The message is deeper than the tone of this story implies. Like the tone makes it feel like there is this humor, there's this like lightness to it. But also, once we get into it, once we delve deeper and peel back the layers a little bit more, we start to see a change in Margaret. And she begins to maybe feel like it's time for her to make her own rules. I did have a prediction at 45% that I wrote down. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it did turn out to be accurate. And that was revealed at 84%. So I feel pretty good about that I like caught on to that for myself anyway. That is like a fun little twist. I don't know why I was expecting it to be something different than it was, but for what it is, I really did like it. So I'm giving this 3.5 stars, which I will round up to 4 stars on Goodreads. I always round up on Goodreads, just in case you're wondering. I was able to find one of my kind of sci-fi thriller stories on Everand. That is Made for You by Jenna Satterthwaite. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. It's so weird because it's got a TH in the middle and just a TE on the end, but it feels like it's supposed to be Satterthwaite. This falls into that 5 minutes into the future concept of, fiction thriller, which I love. And this is also doing something else that I'm really excited about. It is taking place in a dual timeline, then and now. We are following our main character, Julia Walden, who is what they call a synth, or she's like a AI of some sort. She's not human. She was made specifically for a TV show similar to The Bachelor called The Proposal. Literally everything else about the TV show so far is just the same as The Bachelor. Rose ceremonies, all of it. So I really think it's just literally supposed to be The Bachelor, but under a different name so they don't get sued or whatever. She is a contestant vying for the love of Josh. So he's the Bachelor. She was made for him. Hence the title of the story, Made for You. She was made to specifically be what they thought Josh was looking for, wanted, needed, etc. I don't know, not that far in, like a few chapters in. The past timeline is on the set of the reality TV show. I'm really hoping this is going to do that thing that I want in reality TV shows, where the consequences of how the editing came out and the public response then skewed some kind of vicious murder or something like that. It could be this, I don't know. So in that past timeline, it's kind of cool because we're getting to know like the inside things about the show. And I like The Bachelor. I watch The Bachelor. It's my guilty pleasure. That's what it is. I know it's lame, but I also like to think of it as kind of like an experiment, which is why I love also Love is Blind. But that's a whole nother conversation. We're getting inside things that I'm always curious about. One thing, like for instance, they said as soon as they have their like little one-on-one with Josh or whatever, then immediately after that, they go to another room and they have to talk to the producers, and you know, that's when they do the confessionals and all of that. So I never really put that into perspective, because when they have like the cocktail hours or whatever, cocktail evening, they're like, oh, we didn't have enough time to talk to her. But I bet that's part of the reason, because I'm watching The Bachelorette right now, but Josh would have to, in this case, you know, have their one-on-one, and then they both go do their confessionals, talk about what they just talked about, and then he could come back and have another one-on-one with someone else. So it really would take like double the time for that contestant to see everybody, and that's something that I hadn't considered before. So this is why I like reading about like reality TV show stuff, because it's fun to like think about things like that, the behind the scenes things. Then we have the current timeline, and we know that Julia was chosen by Josh. In this timeline, they are together, they are married, and I think it's been 14 months later. Wow, and they have a baby, Annalie, their daughter. And that's another thing about this. Hold on, I'll get back into that. Put a pin in that. So in this current timeline, Josh said he was going camping for the night or something, and he just never came back. And we would come in when Julia is like calling around. She's filing a missing persons report because he didn't show up on the next day or the next day, and she can't get a hold of him. And so we don't know what happened to Josh. Josh is gone. We don't know if he left on purpose, if something happened to him, whatever, but everyone is saying Julia is the prime suspect. A lot of obviously coverage in the media about him picking a synth to be with, to wed and marry, and he's gotten a lot of hate too. They're like kids that come by and spray paint their house. So maybe he just needs a break. I don't know. So those are kind of like what we're being introduced to at the beginning of this book. Here's the thing though, I still don't know what are the rules with Julia, like with the synth thing. How the hell can she have a baby? How does she have a baby? And is their baby half human, half robot? Like, how is she made? I want to know the science behind this. She does say like, you know, they start looking at her and asking her questions because they're already suspicious of her. And so I think we're going to get this element of like social injustice. So maybe we're trying to say something about that, how she is like the other, she's representing the other. But this whole thing is like, is she human? Is she not? Like, what makes us human? And where's the line between that? How do we know? Like, there's just so many questions, which is why I love this kind of story, this kind of futuristic story. Her next door neighbor, Bob, doesn't like her, and he's constantly like looking at her through binoculars through his house, which is creepy. Yeah, and just generally in the current timeline, it doesn't seem like she and Josh have that perfect relationship. Like, obviously in the past timeline, they're getting to know each other, and you're in that like stage where it's like, and then of course like the ridiculousness of being on a show like that where you're dating someone who's dating 20 other people, and like the feelings that come in line with that, the jealousy, the heartbreak, the like all of the things, feelings of worthlessness, the psychological warfare that's going on then. And for some reason in the current timeline, like it doesn't seem like it worked out great. So I don't know what all happened in between. I'm very intrigued. It says this book is 400 pages, but the audiobook was only like 8 hours. So don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's just like a small book. It's got a lot of, I don't know. I don't have the physical copy, obviously. We do have a redheaded main character in this story, which is always exciting for me and fun. Oh, see, there's a dog called Captain. It better not die. That dog better not die. That's it for now. Okay, so I finished Made for You by Jenna Satterthwaite, and I want to talk to you guys about it. I was planning on catching you up in between somewhere, but I just didn't. So let's see where we're at. Honestly, I don't know what my final rating is for this, but I think it might be a 4. I'm between a 3.5 and a 4-star. It might be a 4 though. I loved the Bachelor side of this and how we got to go like behind the scenes of this reality TV show. And originally I was thinking of this as near future, but upon reflection, it seems that this is actually altered history because it's set in 2022. So that's interesting because we don't have this technology now. We're on the way. Like, it's one of those things where this could happen. This could happen at some point in the near future. But anyway, just interesting that she chose to do this in technically a past timeline. So obviously we have this mystery of what happened to Josh. We have Julia and Josh. I was curious, like, when I was going to get the information about how this baby was possible. Is it half robot? Like, what's the deal? They do explain that, so I appreciated that. There's a really interesting conversation in here about Julia and her connection to her daughter, and that goes along with the whole idea of what makes us human. I'm not sure that we fully got to the core of that, though. Maybe that's what's holding me back a little bit. Other things like aging, like, is she not going to age? Like, what's going on with that? And if she does age, how is she aging? She bleeds. How can she bleed? She has a period, or she at least has like cramps from my recollection. Like, there are bodily functions, like she eats, she pees and poops. I just don't understand fully how this exists, but putting that aside, the story itself was really good. Part of the world building in here is that Julia is like the third of her kind. There are two predecessors to Julia, and they are twins, Krista and Crystal, and they were created or bought by these tech billionaires. And twin tech billionaires, if I recall correctly. Twin men married their twin synths, and then the synths now have their own TV show called Keeping Up with the Synths, or something that's like very Kardashian-esque. They're trying to get divorced from their husbands, and so they are fighting for synth rights. But the whole question there is, if a synth can get divorced from the person who bought them, who's going to actually invest in that? It's just very complicated. It's very complicated. But I do think the synths are a stand-in in this case for just anyone who's ever felt othered, who's ever felt like they haven't had the rights that other people enjoy and take for granted, I guess. My favorite bits of this, though, were the behind-the-scenes Bachelor-esque. And it was dual timelines, so it kept going back and forth between the scenes from the show and the current day. And I liked the scenes from the show better just because I just loved all the juicy goss that I got from like the set, getting to know those characters, which ones of those characters are maybe still in the picture or maybe not. But I wish there was more of that. I wish more of the story had focused on that, which wouldn't have been possible in this story. It's just like what I want, what I'm looking for. But that said, even then, we got a lot because that's how we were showing how they were building their relationship. Things like hometowns. Think of The Bachelor. If you're a synth, you don't have a hometown, you don't have a family. What are you supposed to do for that? You know, like stuff like that. It's like very interesting concept. And it's very creative and inventive. I like it a lot. I think this would be really cool if it was like a series, because then you could have like the next season after that on the proposal and how that affects the world in this world, because the consequences of what happened in the story, which I'm not going to tell you and give away, but I want to see the implications of that moving forward. The twist was not the greatest twist, but it was still enjoyable and still surprised me. Like I didn't see that coming. So yeah, I had a good time with it. So I would definitely recommend this one if you're interested. What am I going to read next? I don't know. That's why I found it necessary to sit down with y'all and to give you an update, because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to start. So I think, where's my phone even? I think I'm going to look through what I have on audio with y'all right now and kind of try to figure out what is the most intriguing for me at the moment. But let me find my phone. Oh my God, I'm filming on my phone. My battery died from my camera and I'm filming on my phone. Oh, this is why you can't find it. Wow, Elizabeth, wow. Okay, so I've narrowed it down to 5 books, I think. There's one that I found on Everand by S.M. Thomas called Long Weekend that looked kind of vacation-y and kind of along the similar vibes as this last one. So it says A Vacation to Die For, and this cover is just giving. The market doesn't want to read. It does have kind of a low rating though, but there's only 200 ratings. It's got an average of 3.53 on Goodreads, so maybe this is like a lesser known author. A.R. Hearn Publishing. I have no idea what that is, so yeah, I guess it is. Came out on April 16th of this year, so let's see. An exclusive invitation to a luxurious island resort should be the holiday of a lifetime for Emma, but beneath the lavish settings and indulgent amenities lies a sinister plot waiting to be uncovered. Emma's boss, Rebecca, gifted her the ticket to Hotel Horizon's grand opening. But Emma has her own agenda to write a tell-all article about the rich and famous guests. Little did she know this weekend would become a nightmare she never could have imagined. As she delves deeper into the secrets of the elite, Emma realizes she may have bitten off more than she can chew. Will she uncover the truth and make her mark as a journalist, or will she become the next victim in this twisted game of power and deception? If you enjoyed The Guest List by Lucy Foley or One by One by Ruth Ware, you won't want to miss this gripping thriller. Okay, so is this gonna do like a people are dying one by one type of situation? I'm a little bit reticent based on this rating though. Okay, let's see what else they have. Next, The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. This is a horror story that came out this year, maybe a few months ago. And I have the audiobook for that as well. And I've heard good reviews about this one from some of my friends that have read it. But I think it's going to be one of those a little bit more literary horror. Let me see. The Eyes Are the Best Part. This was on one of my most anticipated video lists. I just don't know if I'm in the mood for something that's going to be self-reflective and make me feel heavy. You know what I mean? This says it's Crying in H Mart meets My Sister the Serial Killer, which I've not read Crying in H Mart, but I have read My Sister the Serial Killer and really liked it. Feminist psychological horror about the making of a female serial killer from a Korean American perspective. Oh, did I know that? Female serial killer. Ji-won's life tumbles into disarray in the wake of her appa's extramarital affair. What is appa? Maybe grandpa? I don't know. And subsequent departure. Her mother, distraught, maybe it was her dad. That might be her dad. Her mother, distraught, her younger sister, hurt and confused, her college freshman grades failing, her dreams horrifying, yet enticing. In them, Ji-won walks through bloody rooms full of eyes, succulent blue eyes, salivatingly blue eyes the same shape and shade as George's, who is Uma's obnoxious new boyfriend. So I guess that was her dad. George has already overstayed his welcome in her family's claustrophobic apartment, and he brags about his puffed up consulting job, ogles Asian waitresses while dining out, and acts condescending toward Ji-won and her sister, as if he deserves all of Uma's fawning adoration. No matter how many victims accumulate around her campus or how many people she must deceive and manipulate, Ji-won's hunger and her rage deserve to be sated. A brilliantly inventive, subversive novel about a young woman unraveling. Monica Kim's The Eyes Are the Best Part is the story of a family falling apart and trying to find their way back to each other, marking a bold new voice in horror that will leave readers mesmerized and craving more. See, that sounds so good. We said female serial killer, but this says it's about a family falling apart and finding their way back to each other. And so, I love that an author can do that, can, make it about that by telling a story of something else. That's what I love about books in general. This one sounds really good. Gosh. But it does sound heavy. I don't know. Okay, the next one is Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, which is another one that I've been really interested in. We read his debut horror last year for the book club, Camp Damascus, and I really liked what it was doing. A lot of social commentary in there, a lot of LGBTQIA+ representation in there. And so no doubt this is going to have the same effect. But again, I am worried about it being heavy. So, and I'm just not I don't know if I can handle that right now. I'm feeling sensitive. You know what I mean? But let's look up the synopsis. I think this also has something to do with a screenwriter. Heart-pounding story about what it takes to succeed in a world that wants you dead. Misha is a jaded scriptwriter who has been working in Hollywood for years and has just been nominated for his first Oscar. But when he's pressured by his producers to kill off a gay character in the upcoming season finale, for the algorithm, Misha discovers that it's not that simple. As he is haunted by his past and past mistakes, Misha must risk everything to find a way to do what is right before it's too late. That sounds like fun. See, that sounds like fun. Maybe I'll do that one. Let's look at the other two. I also have, you know what? I'm just going to go with Bury Your Gaze. Let's do that because that sounds good right now. So I'm going to read that one. I'm going to start it and then I'll catch back up with y'all. Hello, friends. Welcome to my den of sickness, where I have been for the past 48 hours. Yay! I really need to be better about keeping up with my vitamins since I work with kids. This is the second time I've gotten sick in the last 2 months, and it's just inconvenient at this point. It's not convenient. I don't know if I think it's a cold. I don't know. I'm just a lot of. Yesterday it was up here, and today it's more in my chest and I'm coughing, but anyway, so I haven't been checking in, I haven't been doing anything. Although I have been watching TV. Last night, I watched along with Ashley from Ashley's Little Library for her 24-hour horathon. They were watching Pearl together, and I didn't read for the horathon, but I was like, yeah, I want to watch this. Let's watch it together. I'm in bed. I'm not going anywhere. And it was really good. It was really good. I am mad at myself for waiting this long to watch it. So many people have recommended it to me. It's giving like surrealistic, The Wizard of Oz, Fever Dream, but with like Annie Wilkes kind of energy. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't watched it yet, check it out. I just realized I was like, I'm almost 50% done with Bury Your Gaze, and I have not updated y'all at all. I started it a few days ago and I've just kind of been listening to it on the way to and from work. It's really good. It's really good. It's actually surpassing my expectations, my already high expectations. I'm wishing I had a physical copy of this. I'm listening to it on Everand. I may have to buy this one to buy a copy of it because I think it's going well. It's going well. Chuck Tingle. Why did I almost just call him Grady Hendrix? It's very much giving Grady Hendrix. It's horrific, but it's also very tender. Like, the characters are so deep and they feel special. And they're so individual and unique as well. It's also obviously very inclusive because, you know, he's a queer writer. At least in his last two that I've read, his horror books includes a lot of social commentary. We're following a screenwriter, which is giving me the same thing that I love about when I follow an author. There's just writing on, you know, screen instead of paper. Think Elizabeth make things make sense. You know what I mean. I'm also getting kind of, well, I just read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, which is also about a screenwriter and about like a cursed film. There are a lot of things that are referencing back to that for me that I'm getting from this. And then another reference or like comp title, comp author that this is reminding me of is like Rachel Harrison, just because it's the social commentary, the depth of the characters. This is not cozy though, like Rachel Harrison is, so don't get that impression. I really love our main character Misha, who's the screenwriter, and he's written all of these films and TV shows, and one in particular that he's been working on for years is called Travelers, and it's giving X-Files. It's giving X-Files so hard. It's about these two agents, and they go out on these investigations, these supernatural investigations, and they try to figure out if it's supernatural or not. And there's even a character called the Smoker. So I feel like that's harkening back to X-Files too. This character was like a ghost or some kind of incarnation. He was always smoking. He would ask you for a light, and if you don't have a light to offer him, then you would have 5 days to live. After that 5 days, he would find you, pull your bones out from your body, grind them up, and smoke them in a cigarette. So, and there's like, that's just one of these many characters. Like, the thought that had to have gone into this to create all of these different things for this one book is so much. And I'm so impressed with the fact that like just a year later after Camp Damascus, Chuck Tingle's coming out with this, and it seems so well put together and well thought out. Just to like, feels like he's been spending a lot more time on this than just a year. Maybe he has. What's up, friends? I am back. It's been a very long time, but I am here to tell you about Bury Your Gaze because I did finish this and I got distracted for a few days and I was sick and all of that. And so I'm back now. Let's talk about it. There's so much I want to say. I really loved it, first of all. I'm trying to figure out how to approach this review because the twist was not what I thought it was gonna be. This entire, like most of the time I was reading this book, I was thinking, is this supernatural or is this not? And I think what I can tell you is that actually it's neither, in a way. So I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's very genre bending and it's not what you think it is going into it. That said, I like where it went. I have an issue with, in general, with when authors do this and they don't tell you the actual genre of the book. Typically, I don't like it when an author kind of hides the true genre of the book, but this one is done for a purpose, and so I have respect for it. And that's why I think I was going back and forth between 4.5 and 5 stars in this with this one, because there was a moment when that twist was revealed and I was not happy about it. But he does go on to explain, like there's this whole section about how genre and tone are not set in stone. We're following these characters, and these characters are what's really important about this story because they're so good. They all feel so special and so unique, and you end up caring for them so much. But I think that's what's so great about this, is that these characters are such a focal point of this story, but at the same time, this is very high concept. So a lot of times I think it's hard to put those two things together, and he does it really well. And I have so much respect for Chuck Tingle in his writing. After having read Camp Damascus, we read this last year, I think, for the book club, for the Midnight Society book club. This, I believe, was his horror debut. Now, he also writes erotica, queer erotica, and just wild stuff. Like there's one that I saw recently that was like a man who fell in love with a stick of bubblemint gum or something wild like that. And it's for Camp Damascus as well as Bury Your Gaze. There's this overwhelming theme of talking about how media in general capitalizes off of queer tragedy, and we need to have characters in that space that are not just sad. You know, we need to see all different aspects of representation for queer people. And that's not just queer tragedy, it's queer joy, it's queer catharsis, it's queer curiosity. The social commentary is so strong, y'all. It's so strong. Let's talk about these characters a little bit because I love them. Probably my favorite character in this book is Tara, who is Misha's BFF, and she is an ace queen. She's asexual, aromantic, works for this like really big cybersecurity company, and she feels like she does need to express herself with her style, and so she always has these like really out there, really look at me outfits on. She's just an amazing character. And then we have Misha, of course, who plays this like tragic hero, or so we think going into this, really well, where he is, you know, he's had success in his life as a screenwriter, but he also is kind of living two separate lives. He's from Montana, I think it was. He had to go back home for like a high school reunion or something, and he's not going to bring his boyfriend Zeke because he's not really out there. He doesn't want to have to confront that side of him, but at the same time, this whole screenplay, okay, all of this, I knew this was going to be a lot. All of this revolves around the screenplay that he's writing. The supernatural things that he created in these worlds seem to start popping up in real life, and he thinks he might be being stalked by this, like, I don't know, scary fan, because like who would have the resources to do stuff like this? Oh, the audiobook, y'all. I didn't even tell you about the audiobook. How did I? Oh, so the audiobook is narrated by a ton of authors. So they clearly, like, they read this story and they were like, yes, I want to be a part of this. And they all came together. Stephen Graham Jones, Sarah Gailey is another one, TJ Klune, T. Kingfisher. I wish there was like a way to know whose voice was whose, because that would be fun for me. Just so many like writers that came in. CJ Lead. Andre Santana was Misha's voice. I think he is a voice actor, a voice narrator. He may be an author too. It did things with the audiobook that I would have wanted to see in Paul Tremblay's horror movie. Yeah, it was really good, y'all. I could totally see this being a movie. Oh, we also get flashbacks from the author, from Misha's childhood. And not like flashbacks, but like we just get little moments and scenes where we see him growing up, where these characters that he has written were inspired from, and it just all comes full circle. I wrote down a couple quick quotes, but one is just fuck inevitable tragedy. You know who the real villain is? Unchecked capitalism and the desire for capitalist systems to monetize other people's trauma. Good one. There's like, he is saying a lot. This is a political book, very political. And to the point where I'm like, okay, I listened to this on Everand and I'm like, okay, now I have to buy it because I want to support it. I think it's 5 stars, y'all. You should read it. You should read it if you haven't. 3 good books. Honestly, I've had a really, really good reading month. I'm about to film my wrap up right after I wrap this vlog up. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about Bury Your Gaze again, but now I'm like super refreshed, so that's good. I think I am going to stick with a 3.5 star in September House because I don't know, I think I'm just getting a little bit worn out on the unreliable female narrator and the like, is she crazy, is she not? I'm just like I get it as a writing device, but for me, I've just read so many at this point that I'm just a little tired of it, you know? But I do think that September House was different. I do think it's an original story. I think it's definitely got layers to it. It's got depth to it that not a lot of haunted house stories do have. It's got a lot about mother-daughter relationships. It's very psychological. It also has queer representation. It has kind of this like humor to it, this coziness to it, but at the same time, it sort of subverts that too, or like transcends that into like a whole different thing. I only recently realized that there was so many divisive reviews on that one. All the reviews that I had initially heard from like my friends that had read it and stuff were all good. I think it is like you have to be a certain type of person to enjoy it. And even for me, it's kind of pushing that. It's pushing that a little far for me. But I also think I am the person that it's meant to be for. So, but it didn't quite work like it wanted to. Then we read Made for You, and I'm giving that one 4 stars. I really did enjoy this one. I felt like it was inventive. It's very apropos for the times that we're living in. Again, I think I am the target demographic for this kind of story. It's got that futuristic sci-fi type of feel. And then it also has the reality dating show involved, which, you know, I just can't help. It's my guilty pleasure. This one just really worked for me. It's a full world. The world building was really well done. But I think the reason this one doesn't get 5 stars for me is there is a little bit of lack in connection there. Despite how the world building is so good, and it does feel like it's like, oh, like this could be real, like we could live in this place. The tone of it feels more like any domestic thriller. I don't know if it fully brings those two things together in like a cohesive way, but it was a lot of fun to read and right up my alley for sure. And that brings us back to Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, which I am going to give 5 stars to. Yeah, it's going to be a 5 star. I feel like I've been a little stingy with my 5 stars lately. I think that's going to be it for me. Thank y'all so much for watching this to the end. I appreciate you so much. Have an awesome rest of your day. Don't forget that life is short. Uh-oh, do I have a... Yes, I do. Life is short, so read Riley. Cheers and goodbye!